The story of Iran's support for Palestine is not as simple as it may seem. It's really a long and winding road with many turns. Before 1979, Iran and Israel were not enemies. In fact, they were actually quiet partners. Under the Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Iran was one of the first Muslim-majority countries to recognize Israel's existence. They shared intelligence, they engaged in trade, they saw a common threat in some of the Arab states surrounding them. The Shah's government was secular, it was pro-Western, its relationship with Israel reflected that worldview. It was a practical alliance built on shared strategic interests rather than any deep cultural or religious connection. This era of cooperation, however, did not mean that Iran was against the Palestinian cause. The Iranian people, like many across the Muslim world, felt a sense of solidarity with the Palestinians. They saw the displacement of Palestinians in 1948, what is known as the Nakba or catastrophe, as a great injustice. So, while the government in Tehran maintained official ties with Israel, the sentiment on the street was often quite different. This created a quiet tension within Iranian society, a gap between the official foreign policy of the state and the sympathies of a large portion of its population. This underlying feeling would later become a powerful force in Iranian politics. The relationship was one of pragmatism. The Shah needed strong allies to counter the influence of powerful Arab leaders like Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser. Nasser promoted a pan-Arab nationalism that challenged monarchies across the region. Israel, surrounded by hostile Arab neighbors, was a natural if unconventional partner. They worked together on military projects, they worked together on infrastructure projects, a partnership that benefited both nations greatly. Yet this alliance was always conducted with a degree of discretion, mindful of the potential backlash from both Iran's own population and the broader Arab world. It was a delicate balancing act, maintaining a strategic friendship while not completely alienating those who sympathized with the Palestinians. This pre-revolutionary history is crucial to understanding what happened next. The friendly ties between the Shah's Iran and Israel became a major point of criticism for those who opposed his rule. Religious leaders, led by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, used this relationship as evidence that the Shah was a puppet of the West and had abandoned Islamic principles. They argued that he had betrayed the Palestinian people by aligning with their oppressor. This narrative resonated powerfully with many Iranians, tapping into a deep well of religious and nationalistic sentiment. The stage was set for a dramatic and complete reversal of Iran's foreign policy, a shift that would redefine the Middle East for decades to come. The Iranian Revolution of 1979. It was a seismic event that shook the foundations of the Middle East. When Ayatollah Khomeini came to power, he sought to export a new revolutionary ideology. A central pillar was fierce opposition to the United States and to Israel. The new Islamic Republic immediately cut all diplomatic and commercial ties with Israel. The Israeli embassy in Tehran was shut down and handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization. That handover broadcast Iran's new position to the world. Supporting the Palestinian cause became a core tenet of the revolution. It was a way for Iran to challenge the pro-Western Arab order. By championing Palestinians, Iran posed as defender of the oppressed. This directly challenged Saudi Arabia and Egypt. In 1979, Egypt signed a peace treaty with Israel, isolating it from much of the Arab world. That created a leadership vacuum on Palestine. Iran, a non-Arab state, stepped into that void with force and conviction. Tehran declared the liberation of Jerusalem, or Al-Quds, a sacred duty for all Muslims. They established Quds Day on the last Friday of Ramadan to hold protests and show solidarity with Palestine. This institutionalized the cause within Iranian society and projected its importance across the Muslim world. This pivot was a strategic masterstroke for the new republic. It let Iran bridge the divide between Persians and Arabs and between Shia and Sunni Muslims. The Palestinian cause united Muslims across the region. Making it central to foreign policy, let Iran build allies and influence far beyond its borders, rally support, build a network of allies, establish itself as a major regional power. The revolution redrew alliances and enmities across the Middle East. For the leaders of the Islamic Republic of Iran, supporting Palestine is not just a political choice, it is framed as a profound religious obligation. The ideology of the revolution, as shaped by Ayatollah Khomeini, blends Shia Islamic principles with a modern anti-imperialist political struggle. In this view, Israel is seen not merely as a state in conflict with Palestinians, it is framed as an illegitimate entity occupying sacred Islamic land. Jerusalem, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, is the third holiest site in Islam. The idea that this holy city is under the control of a non-Muslim power is considered an affront to the entire Muslim world, or Ummah. This religious dimension gives Iran's policy a unique and powerful moral force. It is presented to the Iranian people and the wider Muslim world as a defense of Islam itself. State-sponsored media, Friday sermons, school curricula. They portray the conflict not as a national dispute over territory but as a spiritual battle between justice and oppression, right and wrong. This framework helps to justify the significant resources, financial, military, political. It elevates the support for Palestinian groups from a simple foreign policy objective to a divine mandate that cannot be compromised. The concept of oppressed versus oppressor is central to the revolutionary ideology that governs Iran. Ayatollah Khomeini often spoke of a world divided between the Mostazafin, the oppressed, and the Mostakbarin, the arrogant powers. In this worldview, Palestinians are the ultimate symbol of the oppressed, while Israel and the United States represent the arrogant oppressors. By supporting the Palestinians, Iran is fulfilling its revolutionary duty to stand with the downtrodden against global powers. This ideology helps to rally domestic support and gives Iran's actions a sense of righteous purpose, both at home and abroad. This ideological commitment also explains why Iran's support often extends to specific Palestinian factions. Hamas, Islamic Jihad, secular nationalist organizations. These groups share a similar religious and ideological worldview. They see the conflict through the lens of an Islamic struggle, rather than a purely nationalist one. This alignment allows Iran to support groups that are not only fighting Israel, but are also promoting a vision for society more in line with Iran's theocratic principles. It's a fusion of religious conviction and strategic calculation that has defined Iran's approach for over 4 decades. Beyond the religious and ideological motivations, Iran's support for Palestine is a cornerstone of its geopolitical strategy. After the 1979 revolution, Iran was isolated. By championing the Palestinian cause, Tehran built a network of allies and proxies, creating the Axis of Resistance. Syrian government, Hezbollah in Lebanon, militia groups in Iraq, militia groups in Yemen, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. This network projects Iran's power beyond its borders and challenges rivals, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. Supporting these groups gives Iran strategic depth. It lets Tehran confront Israel indirectly and avoid a full-scale conventional war. Arming groups like Hezbollah and Hamas places pressure on Israel's borders. This creates a powerful deterrent, making Israel and its allies think twice before direct action against Iran. The Palestinian cause is the ideological glue uniting different groups under a common goal, opposing Israeli and American influence. It's a low-cost, high-impact strategy. This strategy also undermines Iran's regional rivals, especially Saudi Arabia. For years, Gulf monarchies were seen as leaders of the Arab world, but their close ties to the United States and a muted response to Palestine opened them to criticism. Iran positions itself as the defender of Palestinian rights. That resonates with the Arab street who feel their governments have abandoned the cause. It boosts Iran's soft power, even in Sunni-majority countries. The Axis of Resistance is a key foreign policy tool. It is a defensive shield and an offensive sword. Defensively, it creates a buffer zone of allied states and groups. Offensively, it challenges the regional status quo, disrupts adversaries' plans, and expands Iran's sphere of influence. The Palestinian struggle legitimizes the network and rallies support. Without the Palestinian cause, Iran would struggle to lead a largely Arab, partly Sunni coalition. Iran's support for Palestinian groups is not just talk, it is backed by substantial material assistance. This support takes many forms, including direct financial funding, military training, the provision of weapons. Groups like Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad have publicly acknowledged receiving significant aid from Tehran. This assistance has allowed them to build up their military capabilities, developing arsenals of rockets, drones, other advanced weaponry. For example, experts believe that the designs for many of the rockets fired from Gaza into Israel originate from Iranian technology, even if the components are sometimes manufactured locally to bypass blockades. This military support is often delivered through complex and clandestine networks. Weapons and funds are smuggled across borders, through tunnels, by sea, navigating a maze of regional intelligence agencies trying to stop them. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, particularly its elite Quds force, is widely credited with overseeing these operations. This unit specializes in unconventional warfare and has deep experience in working with proxy forces across the Middle East. By providing this hands-on support, Iran ensures that its allies on Israel's doorstep remain a credible and persistent threat, capable of challenging one of the most powerful militaries in the region. Beyond military aid, Iran provides crucial political and diplomatic backing. On the international stage, Iranian diplomats consistently raise the issue of Palestine at the United Nations. Other global forums. They condemn Israeli actions, call for international sanctions, lobby other nations to adopt a more critical stance toward Israel. This constant diplomatic pressure helps to keep the Palestinian cause in the global spotlight and isolates Israel politically. Domestically, Iran's state-controlled media provides a powerful platform for pro-Palestinian narratives, broadcasting news and commentary that reinforces the government's position and shapes public opinion. Rhetoric is another powerful tool in Iran's arsenal. Iranian leaders, from the supreme leader down to military commanders, frequently issue strong statements of support for the Palestinian struggle and condemnation of Israel. These speeches are broadcast across the region and are intended to inspire supporters and intimidate adversaries. While some of this language is dismissed in the West as mere posturing, it has a significant impact within the Middle East. It signals Iran's unwavering commitment to its allies and reinforces its image as the leader of the resistance against Israel and the United States. This combination of practical support and powerful rhetoric makes Iran a formidable patron for the Palestinian cause. Iran's steadfast support for certain Palestinian factions has profound and often difficult consequences for people in Iran and Palestine. For many Palestinians, especially those in the Gaza Strip governed by Hamas, Iran's assistance is a lifeline. Financial aid and military aid allow groups to govern, provide social services, and maintain armed struggle. Blockade and economic hardship mean the support can be essential for survival and resistance. Those who back armed struggle see Iran as a crucial, indispensable ally, a distant power willing to help when others looked away. However, this support comes at a very high price. Armed resistance fueled by Iranian weapons and funds leads to devastating cycles of violence. When groups like Hamas launch rocket attacks on Israel, the Israeli military responds with overwhelming force, causing widespread destruction and tragic civilian losses in Gaza. Iran's support enables resistance but also perpetuates conflict, making normal life impossible for ordinary Palestinians. Many civilians are caught in the crossfire, paying the ultimate price for a far-reaching geopolitical struggle. For Iranians, the government's focus on Palestine has heavy domestic costs. The regime spends billions supporting regional allies, and many say that money could be better spent at home. Iran faces severe economic challenges. High inflation, unemployment, and international sanctions. Protests erupt with chants, "Not Gaza, not Lebanon, my life for Iran." This shows frustration that foreign policy is prioritized over citizens' welfare. The policy deepens Iran's international isolation. Support for groups labeled terrorist by many Western countries is a key reason for crippling sanctions. Those sanctions have devastated the economy, impoverished millions, and limited opportunities for young, educated Iranians. The government frames support for Palestine as pride and strength, but many see it as a costly burden. They pay the economic price for a foreign policy that yields little benefit and keeps them trapped in conflict and poverty. Iran's unwavering support for armed Palestinian factions serves as a major impediment to any lasting peace in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The core of Iran's strategy is to empower groups that reject a two-state solution and are committed to the long-term goal of dismantling the state of Israel. By providing weapons funding training to groups like Hamas Islamic Jihad, Iran ensures there is always a powerful and militant alternative to the more moderate Palestinian leadership based in the West Bank. This fundamentally undermines efforts to negotiate a peaceful settlement, as it strengthens the hand of those who believe violence is the only answer. This approach creates a perpetual spoiler effect. Whenever there is a glimmer of hope for diplomacy or de-escalation, an attack by an Iranian-backed group can quickly derail the entire process. These groups often have their own agendas, which may not align with the immediate interests of the Palestinian people, but serve the broader strategic goals of Tehran. The conflict is no longer just about Israelis and Palestinians. It has become a proxy battleground for a much larger regional power struggle between Iran and its adversaries. This complicates any potential resolution, as a peace deal would require not just the agreement of the two main parties, but also the consent of their powerful external backers. Furthermore, Iran's position hardens attitudes on the Israeli side. The constant threat of rocket attacks from Gaza and the bellicose rhetoric from Tehran reinforce the narrative within Israel that there is no partner for peace. It strengthens the position of Israeli hardliners who argue that security can only be guaranteed through military strength and that any territorial compromise would be a dangerous mistake. The existence of heavily armed, Iranian-backed groups on its borders gives the Israeli security establishment a powerful argument against taking risks for peace. Iran's policy, intended to support the Palestinians, ironically ends up justifying security measures that make Palestinian life more difficult. Ultimately, as long as Iran continues to pursue its current strategy, a genuine and sustainable peace is likely to remain out of reach. The conflict is trapped in a vicious cycle. Iranian support fuels militant resistance, which provokes a harsh Israeli response, which in turn generates more anger and a greater perceived need for resistance. Breaking this cycle would require a fundamental shift in the regional landscape. It would likely involve a change in Iran's strategic calculus, a move away from confrontation, and a willingness to allow Palestinians to determine their own future without being used as pawns in a larger geopolitical game. Until that day comes, Iran's support will continue to be a defining and destabilizing feature of this tragic and enduring conflict.